Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time this video hits you. My name is Bobbie Richardson. This is Ascension Messages, and I will be your guide for today. Also, a bit of housekeeping. I'm going to probably be doing, well, I will be doing from now on card readings I think every Tuesday morning ASCT time, which is Queensland, Brisbane time, and about 7-8 o'clock around that time, maybe a bit later depending on my daughter and when she goes to school, but definitely in the morning I'll start doing that once a week. And if I miss that day, I definitely do it another day, but I'm definitely going to do it once a week. I am an intuitive counselor as well, so get on my website www.codes-to-a-new-reality.com and then click intuitive counseling. You can have a session with me. I'm a psychic reader. I do use tarot cards as well as a tool, and I use my dice, my fortune dice too, which I'm going to start using a lot more of now, and I also will do a video for those. That's something that I invented. And I am an author illustrator of 2 wonderful books for children. Today we're going to talk about OPHIUCHUS and the number 13 and why this is so important at the moment to bring this back into our reality and really saturate everybody's consciousness with this very, very valuable number. It's been tainted for many years as bad luck. It's been shunned, it's been taken away. Ophiuchus is the 13th horoscope astrology. It's been taken away from the horoscopes. Yeah, it's just been really shunned, and there's a reason for that. So as you guys have, if you've heard my last videos, and I've talked about that my name is Alana Wananahi, that was given to me by Cherokee Elder, and I carry the code and the map on the back of the turtle to lead people through to the new earth. Well, on the back of the turtle is the pattern 13, and it's 10 around the outside and then 3 in the middle, and it literally creates like the Taurus energy of returning back, like the wholeness of who we are, and that we are always constantly on a cycle. If you take away the number 13, you're taking away the last story, the last part of humanity's consciousness, and that will hold humanity into a revolving pattern of 12, which is separation. Because what can you do with the number 12? You can separate it into 2 6s, 3 4s. It's separation and easily controlled. But as soon as you bring in 13, which is a prime number, it can only be created through one line, meaning we are returning back to oneness. So there's so much more to this number and the discredit of it, of what our predecessors decided. And funnily enough, it all happened again around the time of Babylon. So there goes that fall again, and the telepathic dislink, the ability not to be able to connect with all. So to keep it all in order and keep us into a limited state of awareness where humanity kept looping back to the same story, being repeated of survival and fighting against the masculine or the feminine, and not being able to connect and collaborate anymore. That in itself ended up limiting humanity so much that they were literally caught in a maze, and in that maze they were trapped in one cycle of it. And they show me, it's like, they've showed me before, it's like a beetle that's had one wing put to sleep. It just keeps, if it tried to fly, it'll just keep spinning around in circles. And that's what humanity has been doing for the last eons since the fall of Babylon. And it was all supposed to happen because we were supposed to learn in a limited consciousness about our material world. So now it's the return, and it's the return of the energies that are pelting Earth at the moment, waking up the feminine side of ourselves. And with that becomes curiosity. And with that becomes the return of this last astrology sign, which funnily enough, NASA has just said that they've miraculously found it, which is a load of codswallop because it's been going for eons and eons. We've just had it quiet, but they want to control this, right? So if they say that they've found it, then they still feel they have control over it. But they can't control something that is so open to curiosity and meddling in the affairs of the old system to shift and break them up and expand humanity's awareness and consciousness. So I did look up a few things. It was really interesting actually this morning, because I'll just get my glasses on. This morning, I literally had a thought of what was my guide said, what was the difference between me and other people? And then this thought came through my mind of, well, I was constantly curious. It didn't matter if I had fear involved, if something was frightening, I was still curious. I wanted to see through the fear. I wanted to understand more and get into a lot more. Now, I'm not an OPHIUCHUS sign. I am Virgo, but I tend to have the same curiosity as what OPHIUCHUS astrology sign people would have. And that's what the difference was between me and many others. I never settled. I always looked for more and asked for more, and always asked for more confirmations and stuff like that. Thinking outside the box. I never took face value what somebody told me. I wanted to find it out for myself. So OPHIUCHUS's integration of all other signs, it represents the divine feminine. Of course it does. That's why they got rid of it. So this is the return of the divine feminine, which is in nature is curiosity, breaking through illusions and expanding oneself through self-awareness. And the actual sign is from November the 30th to December the 18th. The brightest star in the OPHIUCHUS constellation is Rasalhague. It's Rasalhague, if you want to find it out, because I'm probably not saying this right. It's the head of the serpent. It's the charmer. And interesting, it's always got a man, Apollo, or somebody wrestling OPHIUCHUS. You know, it's like that fight between the feminine and the masculine energies. That's how it's depicted. So OPHIUCHUS is curious, passionate, and hungry for knowledge. They are considered meddlesome because anyone questioning authority is seen in the past as a hindrance to those trying to program the future for their own benefit, right? Now I'm going to go into some information that I was given that's away from that constellation, but it's about the number 13 that has importance as well. Remembering that Earth cycles are 13 moons, and we literally have this rhythm of 13 that's running through Earth, and returning back to that as a new, it's a vibration that's always existed, but humanity has stepped itself out of it by shutting down their feminine side, because there was no longer curiosity. It was more of a following game for the last thousands of years. If someone else had the answer, we follow them. And if other people didn't follow, we were ridiculed and that sort of stuff, because the feminine side was constantly ridiculed over those thousands of years for being meddlesome and curious and manic, and showing signs through the month of fiery, I want it my way kind of thing. And that's because even as I told my teenage daughters, when we go through the monthly cycle, give yourself some time to nurture you during that moment of feeling that aggressive feeling, because we've been persecuted for nurturing ourselves, and it's made us internally combusting outward into this explosive manner of, listen to me, I want it my way for once. Feminine side of us is so nurturing and so caring, and then all of a sudden we just can't do it all the time. We need to give back to ourselves, but we've never been taught to do that. So along comes the monthly cycle where everyone gets grumpy and PMSy and all that sort of stuff. It's literally because of the shutdown of the feminine side and not allowing us to have a few days of grace to ourselves and nurturing ourselves. And also the fact that we have the strength within us to be able to handle those mood and emotional swings. So I always taught my daughters, you're going to have to handle this for the next 30 years of your life. So what, you're going to use this and use this as a blame game to be shitty every once a month? No, this is time for you to take back your power, nurture yourself. And that made a big difference to my children when they went through becoming teenagers and so forth. Might help you as well. So this is really the return of the feminine side and the power of who we are and the curiosity of where we're going. This whole number 13 is relevant too, even the number 1 and 3. So we've got 1 is independence, 3 is unity, communications, working together, that sort of collaboration, bringing in things onto Earth and moving with Earth herself, like working with Earth herself. 3 is, they're telling me the heavens, the Earth, and our perspective of all of that. So there's 1, 2, 3. And then 1 and 3 together create 4, which is stability, it's groundedness, it's knowing our strength, it's knowing our power, it's being very grounded. But I want to get into some of this really interesting stuff that I was told by my guides years ago. So as I said, on the back of the turtle was the number 13, there's 13 moons, but also they brought up the pineal gland. Now I have to kind of go back into some stories of my daughter bringing up Anion and all that sort of stuff as well, to be able to really give you the gist of where this is going. But it's quite an in-depth and entangled story into humanity's potential. So we have the pineal gland that's shut down, right? They showed me that the pineal gland is meant to have tiny little crystals, microcrystals, and actually scientifically has been proven that the pineal gland, when it's working well and isn't fluoridated over or preserved over with all that skunk that they've been putting in our food and water, is supposed to vibrate certain frequencies. And just like you see on a plate where you throw sand on a plate, it will, if you have a frequency running through it and you turn that sound up higher or lower, that the salt on the top of the plate will ching into these beautiful mandala sacred geometry patterns. This is what the pineal gland does as well. But we have to come from that stillness. We have to have found our power within us and been living in the moment and recognize that in the moment we can tap into this beautiful new frequencies and shift our vibration. And if we shift our vibration right, everything else around us shifts. And this is why they tried to keep 13 out, because I found out that from spirit, they were showing me the finding of 13 crystal skulls. They said that, no, you don't put 12 around the outside and 1 in the middle. No, no, no. They showed me 13 on the outside. And I'm like, that's interesting. So if there's 13 on the outside, for that to become a pattern that's somatic, it can only be done with one line, right? Which then they said to me, that's oneness. And that's the original pattern of Earth's vibration, is oneness when she is whole, when she is not separated and fighting, and we are not fighting with her. So same, we're part of her, she's part of us, right? So when the Tibetans chant, they make a sound that creates mandalas. I literally have here actually one of their mandalas in a crop circle. I'll show you.
Hello, this is Randy Clark. Hey, listen, I have an incredible story for you today on a crop circle that was formed in the middle of a dry lake bed in Oregon. It was seen in the newspapers around there in the area when this happened. Just an incredible story. If you go on Google, you can find this. It's east of the Steens Mountains there in Oregon. But just an incredible story, because from 9,000 feet is what you're looking at right here. And you can clearly see what is there in front of you here. This huge pattern was scored into the dry lake bed in Oregon. And just an unbelievable story, because there were some pilots that flew over the area. They're from the Idaho National Guard. A lieutenant in the National Guard there flew over this location, and here's what it looked like from 9,000 feet up in the air. You can clearly see just an unbelievable pattern. This is a Sri Yantra mandala formation. It's an ancient symbol, and literally this is a geometrically perfect depiction of this ancient symbol. All the lines line up, everything is correctly done. Now these are the 4 border lines that go around the entire formation, and these lines are literally 10 inches wide and 3 inches deep. Every single line in this entire formation is 10 inches wide and 3 inches deep. So again, this is on hard pan desert type dirt, so it's very compacted, very difficult to score into this type of material, especially a 10-inch trough that's 3 inches deep throughout this entire depiction here. So you know, who knows what made this? All we know is a few things that we know about this. Number one, there was no cars in this area. There's no tire marks into this area. It's in a very remote location, so it's out kind of in the middle of the nowhere. And all of a sudden, here you find this incredibly huge looking crop circle looking type of image in the middle of the desert. I mean, I've never seen this before. But again, this happened at a time when you know, there was no kind of tools that you could use for this kind of a formation in 1990 and pull this off in a very short period of time. I mean, this thing had to have taken some time to be done if it was humans making something like this. However, if this was something that was non-human that did this, that had some kind of higher technology, well, you might be able to carve something like this out of the desert in no time at all, because again, the pilots hadn't seen this on the ground as they flew over this area, and this is a training area where they fly planes over all the time for the military. No one saw this. Just all of a sudden, August 10th rolls around, 1990, and these pilots fly over, and all of a sudden, whammo, there this thing is in the middle of the desert. But again, this was not done by humans, it looks like, because there's no tire marks, no footprints, no kind of score marks from machines that you would think that could do something like this. So how do you make something like this in the middle of a dry lake bed? And again, this is 13.3 miles long. If you go to each one of these grooves and you measure the distance around this entire formation through all of these lines, it's 13.3 miles long. You tell me, how do you make a groove 13.3 miles long, 10 inches wide, 3 inches deep, into very compact, hard dirt? Not very easy to do. I mean, even if you had a backhoe, that would be almost impossible to do something like that and really make it look perfect like this formation is. It's absolutely perfect. Perfection in terms of the lines, the formation, and I believe there's like 7 or 8 triangles inside the center of this thing, so it's just an incredible formation, again, in the middle of a dry lake bed. So don't know who did it, but obviously someone was very talented who made this. More than likely it came from somewhere else. But hope you guys like this video. If you like, give me a thumbs up. If you want, subscribe to my channel. Go for it Randy, and check out my other videos as well. So hope you appreciate this video. Take care, guys.
That can you see here is a crop circle, and look at that. It looks exactly like it's in the desert, like the pattern that the Tibetans chant. And they showed me, this is many years ago, that when the Tibetans chant, they're literally opening up their pineal gland, and that frequency pattern that they were finding and they were creating with the sand was what was they could see within their third eye in their pineal gland before they made any sort of jump into different frequencies to find wisdom and more expansion of their soul and their awareness and everything. So what I was shown was that the number 13, when it was formed with just one line, I think it was D sharp created that frequency, and that could be found as a somatic pattern as well. So I believe that what they were telling me was that 13 is the frequency for us to step into the new earth scenario, and through the return of OPHIUCHUS, the return of our curiosity, the return of living on earth with 13 months instead of 12, all of this becomes more of a balanced scenario where we're allowing our feminine side to speak and have a say and shift our reality, because the feminine side and its curiosity literally uses the imagination to shift reality so that we can grow, expand, and not be trapped in the confinements and limitations of the previous thousands of years, or the previous years that since the fall of Babylon. So this is literally a return to our balanced vibration where we can learn to create something brand new. And that's the importance of this. So even in reflection, you know, NASA can't stop this. Nothing can stop this. Like they'll try to control it. They'll try to say it's all, you know, they found it so that they can say how we use it. But curiosity and meddlesomeness of Ophiuchus will raise its awareness, and I truly feel there's going to come a point soon where, being that 222 is a very feminine year, 2 is very feminine number, that we're literally creating a doorway into shifting the vibration of humanity, and it'd be like something shaking really, really hard, like a pressure valve. Just eventually it will just explode, and then the awareness of humanity is literally going to come online, and we're going to start seeking that curious, meddlesome way. There will be those that will hang on to the old program so tight because they're so afraid of curiosity, so afraid of change, so afraid of their own power, so afraid of the ones that pretended to be in power, that they will fall. So that's probably, yeah, it's a definite, it's going to happen. But we just got to ride with this. And it's not, they're saying, it's not that you can go out there and save everybody. The more you save yourself, the more you're saving others. That's how they're saying it. The more you try to save someone outside of yourself by controlling them and pushing them, the more it actually brings both of your energies down. And I fall into this loop as well, but this is really, they just keep bringing this sort of thing out. The more that, like for instance, I save myself, shine my light, become stronger in who I am, be very honest in what I say and speak, and trust my intuitive guidance, be curious, ask. You know, it doesn't mean that you just let someone railroad you. No, you stand in your power as a feminine deity, asking questions, being curious, poking the bear, you know, so to speak, but not to go and tell people it has to be a certain way, because then you're just doing what they're doing, right? You're actually fueling the old energies of controlling. It's more to do with an inner work, you shining your light, being that curious person, being that meddlesome person that stands up and asks questions from the heart, and then that will show others the strength that you have, and then they will find it within themselves that they don't have to follow the same road that they've been following for honestly many lives. Maybe we can shift our months back to 13 months again. Maybe that's coming, you know, one step at a time. Curiosity first. Let's move into this curiosity and meddlesome kind of they would call it meddlesome, but I call it the soul wanting to expand itself. So the ones that are trying to control everything, call it meddlesome, because it is meddling their stronghold on limiting humanity's consciousness, right? And stopping us from being telepathic and tapping into our pineal gland. And It's also interesting that I was led to that particular mandala when I cross-referenced Tibetans chanting Tibetans mandalas, because lo and behold, I didn't realize this till after. I'm actually recording this after my first recording, and I'm adding this bit in after. The Sri Yantra mandala represents the beautiful goddess Lalita, and the union of the divine with the earthly realm. So it blows my mind how I'm constantly led to more and more of the pieces of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle with this is, I don't think I mentioned too, I think he did, it was 13 miles long, that mandala too, which is interesting that 13 number came up again. But also the fact that there's a flower, like the triangles that are inside it, that's an interesting fact. Because I have had an experience in 2008 when I literally went camping after I broke up with my partner, my girl's dad. And when I was there, I had a really incredible experience in the tent, where everything in my dream that I had was true. And then I found myself at the edge of a cliff hanging on, and I was literally trying to hang on, like grabbing any sort of root. It was a lot of effort to hang on. And then eventually I fell. And when I fell, this felt so real. Like I could feel all the wind flowing past me, and I really felt like I was falling. And then they showed that, like, I had an old lady and a baby, and they said the same words really loudly in my mind: I am in everyone, I am in everyone, I am in everyone. And I saw a huge white mandala at the bottom. And all I can remember of that white mandala is triangles, lots of triangles. So interesting, because then I fell into myself. Interesting that there was lots of triangles there, like coming into this reality, going through the same mandala, similar mandala. I wouldn't say it's exactly the same because I can't remember, as the center of the mandala that I just tripped over is triangles, made of triangles. The other really cool thing that I just realized is that I was taken to another important piece of information to do with the lotus leaf, the lotus flower. That's at the beginning of the, like a few days ago, Spirit took me to these videos of the lotus flower that was found in Egypt. And I'm going to read you out a piece, and it's really interesting because the outside ring of the triangles, right, is the lotus flower. So I'm kind of going through this with you. This is how I work. This is how Spirit and Gaia, like, they'll give me a piece of information, and I'm like, oh, that's got my curiosity, and then I kind of go into it. But and then they'll give me information from it, because I'm asking them. When I start asking questions, they either lead me to a video, a write-up, something like that. Someone will say something outside of me, and it'll be very quick. It won't be like literally the first thing that I trip up over, or the second thing that I trip up over is the thing that I was asking about, that sort of thing. But I do let it go, and then see what comes in. This is what the information I got on the Blue Lotus on the 6th of January in 2022. And I think that this is somewhat part of this information that's coming through at the moment with the return of the number 13, the astrological sign, the 13th astrological sign, the return of the feminine coming in on 2/22, the turtles back in the code. All of this has something to do with our new vibrational reality that's coming through at the moment. I did actually put this up on my website, but it was under those that were, I think I put it under the monetary one, so not everyone could tap into it. But this is, I really feel I need to bring this up now. Lately, my guides have brought the blue lotus to my awareness. The blue lotus is a lotus flower taken by the Egyptians in ceremony and more. I personally have never taken this psychedelic flower, but my guides told me it can have the same effect as an empty mind after an orgasm. That is the flower, that this is the flower Egyptians would take to lead them into being very present and enjoying all life has to offer from a higher perspective, as well as it is the gateway flower to using when you're passing over or dying, as it centers the person to becoming one with all in the moment, giving the soul a clear path to a higher state of consciousness. This is why it was found in many places all over Egypt, in many sexual drawings, gatherings of dances, and placed in tombs. It literally showed the path to their higher consciousness. This can be achieved without the lotus, but one would have to have done the inner work and brought themselves to living in the moment with no attachment to what has happened or what may happen. This brings them to such a heightened state of awareness that they will always know and trust their next step in life will bring them into more and more joy. Fear leaves one and the inner strength takes on a calm demure, allowing new perceptions of life to guide as one becomes in sync with the outside reality and acceptance of all. It's interesting that it is, the lotus leaves are around the outside of the Sri Yantra mandala, that to center ourselves gives us that grid pattern. I would love to see the vibration that makes that grid pattern in the center of that mandala, right? There must be some sort of somatic sound wave that can create that, because that was created in the desert in that lake and it's extremely huge. So they use like sound vibration to make it. I know because I've seen crop circles before actually being made by spirit balls that came in, whether they're UFOs or spirit balls, but it was balls of light that came in and they swirled like this, like a DNA would. And then the vibration of them doing this created, like you literally saw the field change and into a crop circle. And the next morning there was definitely a crop circle when the person went down.
On the 11th of August 1996, a fresh unreported formation appeared at Oliver's Castle in Wiltshire, England. Not only that, but a young man appeared in the Barge Inn pub and showed amazing footage from his camcorder of how this new crop circle had been formed. His footage astounded the people at the pub. For the first time, people could see a video recording of what many eyewitnesses had been reporting in previous years. That crop circles are actually formed in a few seconds by small luminous balls of light which fly down from the atmosphere. Many people had seen these balls of light before, but this was the first time the formation of a crop circle had been caught on a video camera. The young man was not alone on Oliver's Castle that night. Two campers told members of the Wiltshire Crop Circle study group that they had heard a strange electronic buzzing known as the crop circle sound, in the early hours of that morning, at the exact same time that the young man filmed the crop circle forming in the fields below on the other side of Oliver's castle. As we watch this amazing footage, it's important to remember that the young man showed his video footage through the viewfinder of his camcorder the exact same day that the formation was discovered. If the footage was hoaxed by this man, then it stands to reason that the crop circle itself also has to be a hoax. The man who turned up at the Barge Inn pub called himself John Whaley. The Oliver's Castle footage is remarkable, as it proves beyond doubt that UFOs, small spherical balls of light, are making crop circle patterns. It not only proves that UFOs are real, but also proves that the crop circle phenomenon is created by UFOs.
So I know that it's to do with vibrations, and I know that this is to do with us holding focus in the vibration that we have holding within our own minds. I've also been led to, whether I bring this up now or not, is an interesting fact of they keep leading me back to sound bubbles, light bubbles that are made through sound in water.
It's a process called sonoluminescence.
The first time I saw sonoluminescence was in a darkened room. I was transfixed to look at this spherical flask of fluid. And you'd look into the center, and in the center see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye. It looked like a star in the heavens.
Seth Putterman called it the star in a jar, a tiny spot of bright light contained in a flask of liquid. This star in a jar is made when a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid. And this sound wave makes the bubble do something remarkable. First it expands, then it collapses. And this collapse happens so violently that vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a star.
Certain sound vibrations that cause the bubble, and then this light expands outwards, which brings me back to the information that my daughter gave me about anion, that our pineal gland, using serotonin first, then yields it into melatonin, and then it can yield it into a DMT. That chemical DMT is found in every single living thing. And that's what connects us as one. And that DMT can flip, I believe, with the information of my daughter when she was 4, saying that we live in anion, but we also live in our minds now, Mummy, and anion's where everything is everything. That anion experience is found in quantum physics, and that can go between fermion and boson, so that's light and material. It can reside in 2-dimensional spaces, in material or light. I'm not a scientist, I'm only like going through this information. And then what I believe is with the sound frequency that hits the water, and it can be produced by this specific shrimp that does this flick with his and it's the fastest flick an animal can do with his claw. It will push the water so fast that it creates a little bubble of light. And that's what I mean by it turns, literally we can turn material into light with our pineal gland. And if we are holding a frequency pattern, which the crop circles, many of them I believe are from extraterrestrials giving us the keys to us being able to communicate with them through these somatic patterns, then if we hold enough focus, we can literally shift material into light, and then we are expanding our reality into we can shift reality, we can move mountains. That's what they say, right? We can move mountains, we can materialize things, but it has to be only activated by the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, or the masculine and the feminine getting along. It has to come from an unwarring mind. That is the biggest key to begin with. There's something there, there's something here. We're touching on some really interesting stuff. Now, I know there's people who are into physics and they're trying to create this outside themselves, but I believe we can create this within us. There was another story that keeps on driving through my mind, and it was somebody else's story. They said it was a musician that I'd met, and because I'm me and I just come up with the craziest stories because this is who I am, this is my reality. He just said, I want to tell you a story that I've gone through. There was one time where he said he was had enough, and he didn't understand why he was here, and he wanted to know if God was real, he wanted to know why he was here, he wanted to know everything. And this is the story. Now, I mean, you can take these stories with a grain of salt when it's coming from somebody else. So I'm only sharing somebody else's story here, but they keep bringing it up in my mind. So must be a reason for it. He said he lied on his bed and he decided, because he was in such a state of, I've had enough, to just keep repeating and repeating, show me, show me, show me, show me God, show me beyond this reality, show me, I want to see something. And he just kept doing it. He said it took hours, literally hours. And then he felt his fingers almost like feeling like they're vibrating and disappearing. He didn't open his eyes, but he said, then all of a sudden he was in a tunnel. And then when he was in the tunnel, he came to a beach, and then in the beach, he faced off with another being, another person. They approached him, but they said, you're not supposed to be here, and they booted him out. I've also heard similar stories of people who had taken substances as well. So this person said he didn't take a substance. It was just through hours of doing this focused intention. But then there was other people that have said that they've come across this sort of thing. It reminds me of the movie Contact. And I think that there's an ounce of truth in that movie too, where we can do this from the inside out. And I believe that some of these crop circles have keys to communicating with specific beings. So yeah, and also they're bringing me to the caves. I was showing that there's specific caves on Earth that hold a certain vibrational, it's like Earth herself hollowed out the cave to the frequencies for humanity to sit in the middle of it and chant, and then that frequency would come back and go like this till the point where the pineal gland would resonate, and then you can flip into alternate consciousnesses and states of awareness where you can gather more information and have a faster experience of life. There's just so much to delve into with all of this information. So I might be helping somebody else understand and be able to do this within themselves. I also got told that certain soul groups and tribes that would come together, they would have certain frequencies that they're chanting, and when they come together, because their voice was at a certain frequency, when they chanted, it would create the same effect of opening up the pineal gland to the frequency of their voices. And that was the frequency of where their souls come from. So off-planet place where they can communicate even easier with the benevolent beings that they come from. So there's just so much to delve into, and how interesting is this? I really love it how over the span of like 20 years and all this information coming through me, it's slowly becoming more and more clearer. I've held on to a lot of information, and it's just nice to be able to just go, you know what, here's the information, guys. Let's piece this together. Let's see if we can find more of our potential and being able to manifest what we want here on earth as well, and ground it here on earth to be able to work with frequencies and in higher dimensions with these different beings. So love you guys heaps, and I will see you soon. Bye.